Okay, so the brand new iPhone 17 Pro is officially here. But wait, does that mean the highly refined iPhone 16 Pro is just obsolete now? Welcome to this explainer. We're diving right in today, breaking down everything you need to know about Apple's latest flagship clash. We're going to cut right through the marketing hype to find out what has actually changed under the hood.
All right, let's dive into this. Here is our clear roadmap for this heavyweight comparison battle. First up, design and durability. Second, power and battery. Third, we'll hit the camera revolution. Fourth, price and storage value. And finally, the final verdict.
Kicking things off with round one, design and durability. This is a pretty bold pivot.
So the material shift here? It's a classic give and take. You probably remember the iPhone 16 Pro featured that gorgeous grade 5 titanium frame. It was a massive selling point, giving the phone this featherweight, super premium feel. But get this, with the 17 Pro, Apple actually reversed course. They went back to an aluminum frame, pairing it up with a much tougher ceramic shield 2 glass on the back. Now you might be wondering, why go back? Well, aluminum conducts heat way more efficiently than titanium. So yeah, you do lose a bit of that unique titanium character, and you gain a tiny bit of weight. But in exchange, you're getting a frame that significantly improves heat dissipation. It's a real trade-off.
And hey, speaking of the outside of the phone, take a look at this number, 3000. That represents the iPhone 17 Pro's peak outdoor brightness in nits. To put that into perspective, the 16 Pro maxed out at 2000 nits outdoors. So we are talking about a massive 50% increase in brightness. In the real world, what does this actually mean for us? It means effortlessly reading your phone at the beach or using it for navigation on your dashboard on a glaringly sunny day without constantly squinting. It might just sound like an incremental spec bump on paper, but honestly, it's a huge daily improvement.
Moving right along to round two, power, cooling, and battery. Let's look inside the engine room.
Now this next number is absolutely crucial for the long haul, 12 gigabytes. See, the iPhone 16 Pro shipped with 8 gigs of RAM, but the 17 Pro, it jumps to 12 gigabytes standard. Why does this matter so much? 2 words, future-proofing. As Apple goes all in on expanding Apple Intelligence, having more RAM lets the phone keep those complex, on-device machine learning models resident right there in the memory. That means doing things like generating images or summarizing giant blocks of text is going to be incredibly fast and responsive on the 17 Pro. It won't even break a sweat.
And to manage all that extra processing power, Apple is bringing in a vapor chamber cooling system. This is actually a first for the iPhone line. When you combine this brand new internal cooling tech with that aluminum frame we talked about earlier, it's a game changer. It means if you're a heavy mobile gamer or you're constantly editing 4K video, you aren't going to experience that annoying aggressive thermal throttling anymore. The 17 Pro can simply sustain its peak clock speeds for much longer than the 16 Pro ever could before getting uncomfortably hot.
So how does all this translate into real-world endurance? Well, Apple claims video playback jumps from roughly 27 hours on the 16 Pro to a whopping 33 hours on the 17 Pro. The 17 Pro is packing a larger 4,000-plus milliamp hour battery cell. So when you combine that physically larger cell with the hyper-efficiency of the new A19 Pro Chip and that vapor chamber we just mentioned, you get real measurable gains. Honestly, if you're someone who gets major battery anxiety on long travel days, the 17 Pro is quite literally built to eliminate it. All right, let's step into round three, the camera revolution. Reaching further.
Okay, so while the iPhone 16 Pro had a genuinely fantastic camera setup, its telephoto lens kinda lagged behind at 12 megapixels with a 5x optical zoom. Well, the 17 Pro changes the game entirely. This is the biggest functional upgrade you'll actually notice day to day. Now all 3 rear sensors, main, ultra-wide, and telephoto, are massive 48 megapixel sensors. You're trading that exact 5x focal length from the 16 Pro for a 4x and an absolutely unprecedented 8x optical zoom range on the 17 Pro. And the kicker? It's all at a much higher resolution. This means you're getting incredibly sharp photos of distant subjects, like wildlife or your kids playing sports, without losing any of that precious detail.
And don't worry, the front-facing camera gets a pretty dramatic redesign too. We're upgrading to an 18-megapixel center stage lens. But what's really fascinating here is that it utilizes a brand new square sensor design. Because the sensor captures a square image, the system can dynamically crop the frame depending on who's in it. Basically, you don't even need to physically rotate your phone sideways into landscape mode for wide group selfies anymore. The software just perfectly handles the whole shebang for you. Pretty cool, right?
Now, on to round 4, price and storage value. Let's talk about the actual cost of upgrading.
All right, at first glance, you might think Apple just sneaked in a $100 price hike. The 16 Pro started at $999 and the 17 Pro starts at $1,099. But hold on, look closely at those storage capacities. Apple completely killed off the 128GB tier for the 17 Pro. It's gone. The new base model gives you 256GB right out of the box. So that whole price illusion clears up the second you realize the per gigabyte value remains exactly the same as last year's 256GB 16 Pro. You're just starting at a much more realistic, usable storage ceiling.
And that brings us to our final section, the final verdict. Which phone is actually yours?
Let's break this down. Who should actually buy the 17 Pro? Well, if you're upgrading from an iPhone 14 Pro or anything older, honestly, this jump is going to feel absolutely massive. If you find yourself constantly wishing you had that 8x optical zoom for distant subjects, or if you're a really heavy outdoor user who desperately needs that 3000 nit screen, this is for sure your phone. Plus, if you want maximum future-proofing for all that AI stuff with 12 gigs of RAM, yeah, go for it. If you fall into these categories, the 17 Pro's specific, targeted refinements absolutely justify spending top dollar.
But hey, what if you don't fit that profile? Well, if you're currently rocking a 15 Pro and you just aren't feeling a massive pull toward the new features, or maybe you just really prefer that featherweight titanium build over the aluminum, the 16 Pro is still amazing. More importantly, if you're budget conscious and hunting around for open box or refurbished deals, and you know you don't really need extreme camera zoom, the 16 Pro is an absolute steal right now. Seriously, remember this. Just because it's discontinued does not mean it's obsolete. It remains a beautifully capable, incredibly premium device that will save you a serious chunk of change.
Which leaves us with one final, ultimate dilemma to think about. Are you paying for the newest tech, or are you paying for the tech you actually need? Look, it is incredibly easy to get swept up in the hype of a brand new release cycle. We all do it. But as we've seen today, comparing these two fantastic devices side by side proves that the absolute best smartphone for you depends entirely on what you actually do with it every single day. So take a moment, challenge your own upgrade habits before you pull the trigger. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.